What's up, narrative breakers? Luigi Mangione, United Healthcare CEO assassin, has taken the internet by storm and has officially won the internet. How did we get here? Why did he win it? And how the government is 100% responsible for it? And what are they going to gain from making this dude bigger than Denzel Washington and Leonardo DiCaprio combined? I mean, this perp walk that he recently just did, bro, it's worse than anything the Joker or Superman ever had to deal with in any form of cinema. So they want to make a spectacle out of this. Our job is to find out why.
Well, police say he brazenly gunned down a healthcare CEO on the streets of New York City, and now accused killer Luigi Mangione is facing federal murder charges. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. This afternoon, Luigi Mangione will appear in a federal courtroom in Manhattan. A federal indictment was just unsealed. Mangione now faces 4 counts of stalking, murder through the use of a firearm, and a firearms offense involving a silencer. Mangione landing in New York after waiving extradition from Pennsylvania, where he was arrested after days on the lam. Videos capture the 26-year-old's transport earlier today, first driven to an airport in Altoona before being loaded onto a small plane to New York. A swath of security in tow the entire time, and Mangione clad in shackles.
I will say this, and I need more of my legal experts. Now, a perp walk is something that is completely pointless, and it's to bring shock and awe and please the public. Okay, we don't do public executions anymore, but we do something called a perp walk, where they get the suspect before they have any charges, walk them in front of the media as a show of force that the police force has gotten this person that is basically, it's just for show and tell because everyone is talking about it. So it's to show people, hey, this person that got all your attention, well, we got him. He's in our hands. We control him now. We control the narrative. He can't get out and do anything. He's not bigger than us. And I guess because the larger the star is, the more of a spectacle they feel like they have to make to send a message. And the message that they send is a very dangerous one. It could be 100% intentional. And for the first time ever, I'll give the government some slack. It might not be. It could be a little bit more business oriented, because when you give people a villain, right, it gives them something to talk about, it gives them something to fear, gives them something to support, gives them something to argue with. It's a very, very it's a personal situation when you have a villain, because people are going to sympathize with the villain because they like anarchists, and you're going to have people that, of course, going to disagree with the villain. But when you have a villain that is so large where everyone in the country know of them, it gives the police force an excuse to show off what they can do. They never really get in the cameras like that, but they get to show off the power of their force. So I feel like that's why you would see in this upcoming perk walk that's going to be covered. It's why New York Mayor Eric Adams was walking with them, because it's a show of force. It's a show that although these people appear to be larger than life, this is how large we can get. So it's almost like I feel like they try to match that energy. And here's the business part of it. In a good world, it would deter other villains. It would deter other people because it's like, okay, if I want to be a villain, they're going to match my energy. No matter how smart I'm supposed to be or whatever it is, they're going to match the energy. But what happens is that you have some inspiring maniac looks at this and say, man, that could be me. I could get that amazing escort. And it happens time and time again. The infatuation that America has with criminals is even through systems of the perk walk. I used to think the perp walk was something that's done in every country, but it's pretty American. It's pretty Hollywood. People are saying, oh, it's just a show. I don't believe it's a show. I don't believe it's a show. It's because you have your attention. I never understood, like when I looked at the O.J. Simpson trial, and I looked at that trial versus other trials, and I'm like, man, how the hell everyone else's murder trial is so much quicker than this one? Because all of these things cost money, right? All these trials. And if it's a trial that has thousands and thousands of eyes on it, with millions of eyes on it, then they can afford the resources to bring in more assets to make that more of a spectacle, because it could get more people interested in the city. I mean, it has benefits for New York regardless, because right now it's like a Gotham City. This dude at the end of the day is an iconic figure right now, and New York have him. That's yet another reason for people to claim some significance to New York, as crazy as this sounds. They can say New York has legendary criminals. Everything that is show is a reason to be monetized. It's for monetization. And sometimes we look at things a little bit deeper than it is.
The accused killer also facing first and second degree murder charges in New York City related to that Midtown Manhattan killing of Brian Thompson during the early morning hours of December 4th. Sources now telling us that the expected federal charges that await could make Mangione eligible for the death penalty. Let's bring in our legal contributor and trial attorney, Brian Buckmeyer, by phone. So, Brian, I guess let's first start with Mangione's arraignment today. What can we expect?
Mangione is going to be doing an arraignment, which is an initial appearance before a criminal court, where he gets to hear the charges as you've outlined in the federal case. And then the judge will decide as to whether or not bail should be set. But considering the nature of the charges, I would assume that he would be denied bail and be remanded as the case then progresses. The next question would be is when and if he's going to show up in a Manhattan courthouse to then hear these state charges.
Got it. All right. So let's just talk about the state and federal charges here and the federal side of things and how that could make him, he could face the death penalty, right?
Absolutely. So in the state of New York, there is no death penalty. The highest charge of murder in the first degree, which he faces in state court, has a penalty of life without the possibility of parole. That's the highest sentence we have in the state. But in the federal court system, they do have the possibility of the death penalty. But we will know that far in advance of any type of trial because the government will have to make some sort of notification that they are seeking the death penalty. So while it is a possibility, we don't know if that's the actual sentence that the government will be seeking at this point in time.
All right, so Mangione's lawyer is now calling the federal charges a pile-on. We first knew about what he faced in state court, but now we're hearing about these federal charges. The lawyer's saying that it raises concerns of double jeopardy. Is he right?
So no, and I think currently Luigi Mangione's attorney is Karen Friedman Agnifilo. So I don't believe she's right in the sense of double jeopardy. Double jeopardy is when someone is tried for a case twice, not when they're charged for the same incident. We've seen cases like this when it comes to, for example, law enforcement officers that kill individuals being charged in both state and federal court. So that is possible, but I do share the sentiments, and I think most defense attorneys would, that it is somewhat of a pile-on, that where the state court has already secured an indictment for murder in the first degree, having the federal court then jump in as well to add additional charges would, in some senses, be considered a pile-on just because they already have such serious charges against this person.
Just as a
Mind you, this dude is taking the internet by storm. He's taken the internet by complete storm, and to many people, he's a hero. I would say many liberals, which is strange because those are the same people that would push gun reform. I don't understand how it's okay to have guns and bust a man behind his head. It's any different from any other type of gun use, but I guess those rules, I don't get to make them. I only get to report them. But nonetheless, he is a hero. And he's a hero because people look at individuals at the top of the ladder as if they're the root of all of their problems. And I tell you, the people at the top of the ladder are the root of about 60%. That might be given too much. And I might lose some people here because I say at least 40% of those problems can also fall back on us. So how is that? We can have a trashy government. We could have, a bad boss, etc. But what are your options? What are you going to do to make your situation better, etc.? You see, in America, we have gotten to the point now where it's not just about our government anymore. It's about the CEO that earned his position. Like, these individuals are highly educated most of the time. Ivy League colleges. They get these positions, and people will say they're non-deserving for hundreds of thousands. I just can't really agree with that. Never could agree with that because it's like, man, if we don't want people to be at the top, what the hell do we have to aspire for? That was always my narrative with it. I was like, man, if I don't want them to win, what is winning? And if I don't want them to win, and if I don't want anyone to win, then that means I would want a reality where there's no such thing as winning. And I'm not going to lie to you guys here. I want a reality to be able to win. I want to win. I like winning. My favorite type of video games is fighting games because I love winning. And it's like I needed something to want to be like. So you see people like the United Healthcare CEO, maybe they weren't doing the right things with their company, but A company is larger than a CEO. We have to understand that there are board meetings. Man, there are lobbyists. There are so many different ulterior factors that get things to become what they are than just a CEO. But in America, we feel like those that have earned their positions, if they were thrown away, sent back to the bottom, and replaced with the hungry people at the bottom, that we would have a better world. I highly doubt that. I think if everyone in the world was given $1 million, I think by the end of the year, by the end of the year, by the end of the year, at least 94% of that money, that $1 million that was given out, is going right back to the hands of the millionaires. And that's because the way people spend it. People are going to be spending it on TV, spending it on cars, all those things that those billionaires and billionaires already own. What are they going to buy with $1 million? Maybe some investments, an asset here or two, and that's it. Might pay for some business expenses, but they'll be able to maintain their money, their cash flow. So it's not about the dollar, it's about the person. If we can't sit there and start to observe the people and study them to see how they're able to obtain success, we might not never get it ourselves. We need something to base success off of. So I can't agree with what he did. I can't agree with it, and I feel like he's taken over the internet. He's become the hero everyone wants because they are looking for a hero. Or can I say this? They're looking for a villain. They're looking for a villain to blame for their lives. And if you can find a villain to blame for your lives, you get confirmation bias if a quote-unquote hero comes takes them out. So it's a butterfly effect, and it's a combination of a perfect storm.
An attorney, and how this seems to be changing by the day. What are your thoughts on just this whole process, how much attention it's getting, and now just the multiple charges that we are learning about?
So I think now that we're learning what the federal charges are, they differ greatly from that of the state court being murder, and there are specific defenses that come from that that I think Luigi Mangione might have been able to avail himself, especially because of this groundswell of people supporting him. We've seen high-profile cases in the past where it begs the question of hero or villain, and we've seen people divided. I would point to Daniel Penny being the most recent one, people being divided based on not necessarily the crime, but the situation that revolves around it. Now we have the case of Luigi Mangione, and I don't even think it's much of a division, so much of that is people's frustration with the medical insurance industry bleeding into a homicide case where people are not necessarily looking at the facts of, did he plan the murder? Did he do it? Was it premeditated? They're looking at it as a point of, I'm frustrated with the medical industry, and they are championing Luigi Mangione to some extent. And I say that as an interesting aspect only because at some point, 12 people are going to have to sit and hear this case, and that could be somewhat of an influential factor in determining guilt or innocence.
Yeah, we should point out, as we do have this conversation, which is an important conversation to have, that he wasn't even covered by United Healthcare. And that was one of the surprises, Brian, that we learned as we continued to cover this story. By the way, we are looking at live pictures now. It really is fascinating as here we are talking about the groundswell of support for Mangione, and not over the crime, but the frustration with medical insurance. At the same time, look at the security, Brian, around him. I mean, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, almost a dozen members of law enforcement and federal officers all around him, giving him security as he enters the courtroom.
Yeah, and that's a lot. I've had my fair share of extradition cases where a client is either going to a different state or coming from a different state, and this amount of security is not normal. I think it really lends itself to the nature of this case and the high level of publicity that comes from it as well.
So let's talk about federal executions as we continue to stay on these live pictures. It's interesting to note, by the way, when we remember when we first saw Mangione and how he was screaming at people as he was being taken into jail. When we first saw that he was caught and arrested, he's much more subdued, much calmer. The security around him incredibly intense, from the NYPD to the FBI. They are all the armed guards now bringing him into that van. And the fact that it is created, as you said, just this this national conversation, not only around the crime and how he did it, but the fact that he wasn't even insured by United Healthcare.
And why would he do that? If he wasn't insured by United Health, why would he sit there and blast the person? This is what's leading people to have those conspiracies. But I feel like, man, the main reason why he probably would have got him is because it was something with the scheduling. We got to remember that he got the United Healthcare CEO when he was going to, I believe it was some type of showcase or a convention of some sort. I think he had to speak. But he got popped before he went to be around, I guess, other people in the healthcare industry. Now, could it be that maybe people didn't do enough research and look into that venue that he was going to, and he just got the first healthcare CEO he could find? Or did he just want that one specifically? Now, if he was just trying to get that one specifically, there had to have been some breach that Luigi Mangione was able to find out through his security. Maybe he was more accessible by the internet. You know, maybe his actual public data matched up to his house, which led to Luigi Mangione start stalking him. That's where the stalking charge, they said, had to come from. So he had to find a target. And another thing, if this was an individual that maybe didn't want to get caught, everyone's assuming he wanted to, you wouldn't want to pop someone that insured you. You know, if you're trying to do it for a message, you're not trying to get help yourself. By the time he made that murder, he knew he wasn't going to get help ever again. He wanted to send a message. He really is like the Joker. And to send that message, he didn't want to get caught with it either, is what I'm assuming. So if he didn't want to get caught, he's not going to shoot someone that was insured by him. I would think the news would know something like this. They make it seem like, oh, it's just so unbelievable. That's why mainstream media is dying, because they have these kindergarten takes to try to keep the audience excited. Like, we're grown-ass adults. Just break it down and keep it moving.
And a lot of people did not know that at first. And so that sort of pivoted the conversation away from all this concentration on Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and just this overall discussion, like you said, about frustration within healthcare. But now, bringing it down to what he faces, and that the federal charges open up the possibility of the death penalty. Federal executions are rare, right? There's only been, what, a dozen to 16 federal executions since the 70s, the early 70s, but 13 of those apparently under President Trump. So now he's coming into office. You have this story that's dominating the headlines. How likely would it be that Mangione could actually receive the penalty and that it be carried out?
I think it's very unlikely for a number of reasons. One, the stat that you're reciting out to our viewers about the number of people who actually do face the death penalty. Does the fact that Donald Trump, the president-elect, soon to be president of the United States, will be in office, and we did see a groundswell of executions during his presidency, have an impact on that? Absolutely. But also, I think if you look at it from a geographic standpoint as well, the Southern District of New York encompasses Manhattan.
Terry Austin, I want to bring you in as well, former trial attorney and legal analyst. Just listening to the conversation I was having with Brian there, your thoughts as an attorney, as a legal analyst who has covered so many murder cases with us. What do you think, why do you think there is so much interest in this case and in Luigi Mangione and in this?
Because of the media. The media has blown this dude up like they do with every single criminal. They will blow these people up, and then they wonder why other people want to be criminals. Like, dude, Denzel Washington don't get treated like this. Leonardo DiCaprio don't get treated like this. Show me how. They don't get this type of treatment. No. So it tells us what? You see, seeing is believing. We've seen the treatment that the biggest stars in Hollywood can get. And we see the treatment an individual that gun a man down in the middle of New York and then run to Central Park on a bike. We can compare it, we can contrast it. Someone that's the ultimate clout chaser, he says, hey, the clout's on Luigi. So he's going to try to be like Luigi. Come on, man, this is obvious. And they act like they don't know this stuff, but America needs criminals. Because one of the most, here I go to conspiratorial. I don't want to get too deep in it, but hey, the more criminals that America makes more money from crime than almost, it does. I'm sorry. I'm going to put it out there. I love my country to death, but I'm sorry. I got to break it. I mean, I got to say it. We make more money from criminals than any other European nation, bro. And more than any other first world country. It just don't make sense how profitable the justice system and crime and all of it is. It really is crazy that our country is ran like a corporation and not like a country itself. It's ran like a corporation, and all of us were viewed as if we're just assets or liabilities in this nation. So if they can influence other people to be criminals, they can increase the likelihood of the school of prison pipeline and decrease the likelihood of individuals rebelling against government, of individuals not dependent on government, because if you get in the system, you're a part of the system. It's called a system for a reason. Now, what does the system do? It's just like a casino. It's going to make sure the house wins every time. So as soon as you join the system, which is what they want, what does that mean? You put yourself in position to lose almost every time. And they don't want you in a position to win. So they influence us to be criminals. And it's very subliminal. They put it in our movies. How they put it in our video games. The criminal's cool as hell. It's not promoted that way everywhere else. We're the ones that make the criminals cool as shit. We're the ones that do it. Just like the Joker. People say, why does Joker 2 suck so bad? We love Joker 1 so much. We love the villain so much that the writers hated us. So they punished us because our American minds ended up praising the Joker when we were supposed to actually hate him. Look it up. It was because we liked the Joker. But it's because we've been Americanized. We've been taught to love the villain. And why is that? Because we've been manipulated. Why? Because America is a country, and I've said before, that loves underdogs. And through that, they found a way to manipulate us into thinking that a criminal could somehow be an underdog.
Conversation around medical insurance, the frustration with medical insurance, and just the groundswell of support that he is getting. And I should point out, not about the crime that was committed. We should never support murder, but just the frustration that has been brought.
Look at that. They want to give out that little disclaimer, but they even get gleeful when they talk about it. It's very sick stuff. And it's very scary when you think about how many impressionable people watch this.
Brought out since Mangione, allegedly committed this crime, and of course, this so-called manifesto that he had written.
Exactly. This is the type of case I think that the society wants to see, and that the prosecutions, both on the federal side and the state side, they want to make sure that they're focused in on this. I think as far as communities are concerned, they are frustrated, and they are looking at the healthcare system as a failure here in the United States. But as you said, Kira, there is absolutely no excuse for murder here. And that's exactly what happened. It was someone who...
Look how toxic the media is. They first break down why people, people love the guy. They've been done wrong, being treated wrong. When you have to remember that Democrats are the same people that vigorously, I'm messing up the word. I'm still recovering from the flu. I won't use that excuse. These are the individuals that will constantly tell us over and over to trust the science, to trust the health. Why we got to trust the science? Why we got to trust healthcare, but y'all don't? You can't trust the process of the whole situation, but we just got to trust come on, man. We got to trust getting a shot, but you can't trust the business part of it. You see how hypocritical this is. Trust the science, trust the process, trust the government, trust the medical systems, trust your doctors. All that go out the window because now these people are letting their selfishness get to them.
shot someone in the back, and it was someone who could have done other things. Louisiana is a smart person. Mangino, he is someone who has been educated. He is someone who really could have started a swell against the healthcare company, could have started a boycott, could have gotten many people behind him. And instead, he decided to take the law in his own hands. And we saw that Governor Hochul said, no, you cannot do this. The police commissioner said, we will not accept this in the state of New York. And so what you're seeing on the prosecutorial side is the firm backing of pursuing the maximum penalty, both on the state side and the federal side. What I haven't seen is the fact that both state and federal are doing this at the same time. And it does look as though the federal case is going to proceed before the state case, but he's being brought in front of both courts. So it's going to be interesting to see how, in fact, this is handled on both levels.
What do you think are some of the challenges for prosecutors in a high-profile case like this?
Well, certainly on the state side, if in fact they proceed with both that murder one, murder two charge, and they've tied in the terrorism to that, that's going to be difficult. This is an individual who shot another individual. It's not what we commonly think of as a terrorist act. But what the prosecution, what Bragg said he wanted to do is, look, this person was trying to make a statement. He had, as you said, a manifesto. He was trying to say something about large corporations and how unfair these large corporations are, particularly in the health industry. And so he's trying to make a statement. And I think on the state side, they will certainly pursue the social media that we saw, people coming out and supporting this defendant, when in fact he is someone who shot someone in cold blood. And I definitely think that the prosecution is going to look at what happened, and they're going to be able to at least try to tie in that terrorism, saying that it was intended to intimidate.
Yeah, it's a very crazy situation, but is it anything new in America? Does it surprise anyone if you've been watching the whole Ted Bundy situation? How Ted Bundy really took over the internet in 2020s. Was it 2020s or 2021? I can't remember. But he took over. He even ended up having some relationships get broken up. Imagine that. A dude that's not even relevant, that's going, still messing up marriages. A freaking maniac that was a murderer. It's just, it's Hollywood. I blame Hollywood a lot for it. I blame the government, of course, but Hollywood holds a lot of weight of it because Hollywood makes the bad guy look so much cooler than the good guy in every single way. And Hollywood is also one of the reasons why this man had this amazing perp walk, because they understand that people were expecting a spectacle because what we're used to seeing on TV, and they make sure to give us that. Please like, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay updated. I left my camera at the house. Well, I actually got my camera here, but I left my battery back home. I'm up here in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm going to keep posting like usual. Nothing's going to stop this train. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.